Hey guys, Kevin Ploe here, correspondent and host for Yahoo Entertainment. I am super excited to be back in New York City this week, guest hosting Build Series, my #1 favorite live interview show on the entire internet. You may know our next guest as Sebastian Howard, aka Bash, the eccentric playboy and producer of the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling in the Emmy-winning, super awesome Netflix series Glow. Maybe you've also seen him on other television favorites like Graves, Veronica Mars, and Private Practice. The hilarious and scene-stealing actor Chris Lowell will be out here in just a moment, but first, here's a look at him in Season 3 of Glow, now streaming on Netflix.
Well, how about this for an idea? We bring Rhapsody into the 80s.
What did you have in mind, Bash?
It's Bash Howard's Rhapsody featuring BMX babes.
Because that's his brand. Girls doing something you thought only a boy could do.
Look, if I'm gonna pump more money into Rhapsody, then it's gotta have a Bash Howard stamp. Now, everybody in town's got a showgirl show, right? But no one in town has a BMX showgirl show.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason for that.
I'm in.
Hey.
I'm in. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having
Welcome to
me.
Build Series.
Oh,
Welcome,
hey,
Chris
y'all.
Lowell,
Thanks for having me.
everyone. Congrats on this show. You are so fantastic.
Thank
I gotta
you,
tell you,
thank
I'm a
you.
huge fan, both of the series and what you've done through all 3 seasons now. I mean, Bash is such a great character. I'm excited to really get into what drives him and sort of the arc we've seen over the course of these first 3 seasons. I gotta say, in all honesty, I felt like it was that episode. I think it was episode 3 in season 1 where he shows up for the first time.
That's right.
And I really think that, in my humble opinion, was when the show really caught a groove. I think obviously in large part because it was the first time we see all these incredible women sort of out of the ring, and we start to sort of dig into their colorful, eclectic personalities. But also in large part, I think because of the energy and the charisma that Bash and your performance of Bash brought to the series.
Well, I think it's safe to say, based on this poster, that Bash is a really important.
Clearly,
You can see
yes,
it's very
yes,
heavily
yes,
represented.
right.
No, frankly, for me, I think that I think there's this sort of assumption that people make about when you're on a show that's. I think there's this sort of misconstrued idea that when you're trying to create more space in the workplace for women, that as a result, men don't have lose space or priority. And I think what this show has certainly taught me is that there is plenty of room for everybody. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that I still, being one of 2 guys on the show, I still benefit from remarkable storylines and great developing dimensional character traits that just is a blast to be a part of, you know?
Well, that episode, by the way, episode 3.
Yes.
I want to get back to that for 1 second.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
That was the episode where they all go to
we all go to Bash's Malibu
Mansion.
Beach house. Yeah.
And I need to know, did you keep the drug robot?
The Glowbot. It's so funny. The 2 guys who created it showed up in full 80s gear as well. I mean, it literally looked like 2 super fans of Short Circuit, you know? Like with these crazy remotes that operated it. And no, they would not let me keep it. I tried.
Yeah. Where do you think the drug robot is now these days?
Probably in...
Where are they now?
In those designers' house. I will say this. Every time we have a party for Glow, typically somehow that thing ends up there. And far and away, it's the only thing that people want to take photographs of.
Yes.
Gina Davis will be standing there, and people only want to take photographs with the freaking Glowbot.
Does he have a name?
I think just Glowbot, and I didn't give it that name. Yeah,
just Glowbot. Bash is such an intriguing character. I feel like obviously he's the epitome of privilege, or at least he's been sort of through some ups and downs. We've seen him endure. Things get a little dark for him in season 2.
Yes.
But you can't help but root for this guy. I mean, he's just got I think he's got like a lust for life that is just contagious.
Yeah, I think he's definitely like a diehard fanboy of wrestling, and you can sort of feel that throughout. What's really fun, though, is that generally on a show, and what's so fun about this show and specifically is I think typically shows are either a hard comedy or a hard drama, and it's very rare that you can find a show that can accurately stick the landing of having really big, legitimate, intelligent comedy and also some very realistic, grounded, dramatic moments, and also tackle like big issues like equal pay and women's rights in a way that doesn't feel contrived or forced into a storyline, that feels very organic and natural. And it's just a real testament to the talent that Liz and Carly have brought to the show. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah, and oftentimes it really can
yo-yos
pivot back
fast.
and forth between that moment of sharp comedy and that moment
that's their
of
favorite
oh
thing
shit
to do.
drama.
Liz and Carly's favorite thing to do is to create a scene where you are feeling as comfortable and at ease and happy and jovial, and then to just drop kick you in the teeth with some devastating moment. I think that's like their modus operandi.
And to your point about how it tackles these very, obviously it's a period piece set in the mid-'80s, but the way it weaves in very topical moments, things that are, as a culture we're dealing right now with in the zeitgeist. And I think the clearest example for me is, and again, to your point about how organically it's executed, was in season 2 when Ruth finds herself in that hotel suite with the television executive. It's pretty much like right out of the Harvey Weinstein playbook.
And the irony of that too is that sequence excuse me, the irony of that is that sequence was, we'd already shot that when the Weinstein story broke, and I think it really speaks to the fact that this is something that has been going on long before the Harvey Weinstein, and that it's not limited just to one scumbag, that it was sort of like just kind of the norm for a lot of people. And so it was actually one of the writers had an experience similar to that, and that was the inspiration for that episode. And then as we were shooting it, or maybe shortly after we shot it, was when that story broke, and all of us were just kind of like, agog at the fact that we had just sort of like portrayed this.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
I would have guessed that it was written more as a reaction to Me Too.
Because the first season was when Trump got elected, which was also like, a tough day to come to work, you know what I mean? When everyone was just sort of, our boom operator would be crying. We'd have to like all take a moment,
It was a dark day.
And then like, if you think Mark Maron is like a cranky troll in general, like that day, it was just like the world is ending, it was bleak, man. And then the following year was the Weinstein scandal. It's sort of been like, but at the same time, for me, there's a real, it's really wonderful to be able to, so much of the time you feel like there's really nothing you can do. And you have all this anger or emotion, you want to put it somewhere, but you don't know where you can. And it's nice to be able to come to a job that is sort of tackling a lot of these issues like in real time, and to feel like you can actually put some of that passion and anger and into something artistic, like we can actually create something out of it, which I think is a real reward that we didn't expect.
Let's talk about Mark Maron for a second.
Fire at will.
I'm a what the fuck nut. I enjoy his podcast. Is he someone like I feel like he is just would be the guy on set to sort of lend himself out for when anyone needs some sort of on-set therapy.
Could not be further from the truth.
No.
Mark is, and I say this with like great love. Yeah. I've never heard Mark's podcast because I see it every day I go to work.
Yeah.
Like I'll sit down and Mark will just be there rambling about something and doing it with this great sardonic sense of humor and a little bit tongue-in-cheek and a very dry wit, and then the moment he's done rambling, whatever it's about, whether it's his coffee or the state of, Crimea, suddenly he'll finish his ramble about like his fucking dad that's driving him crazy, and then just get up and leave. And it's like, all right, we're done. The conversation's over. All right, see you later, Mark. I really think that for him, that podcast is. It's almost like he's not doing that for any other reason than he just lives for it. Like I really do think there's a compulsive nature in him that gets so excited about sitting down and just forcing himself to like really engage with people. I think it's become like a distinct part of his of his like the way he knows how the world spins.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fascinating.
I was going to say, to his credit, he only goes on those crazy rambles for 15 minutes, and then he does really insightful, like hour-long interviews.
You understand. Mark, I think, is like probably everyone's favorite person on set, if only because it's just he's just a fascinating human being to be in the presence of. You know, he is 100% himself, and I always think of him, he's like a cranky uncle. You know what I mean? He's like somebody who's like kind of playing the role of being sort of a bitter old man when realistically, like, I think he really cares about so many things and is so engaged, and that's just like the filter through which he communicates all of his feelings.
Yeah. Let's get back to Bash for a second.
Sure.
How much Chris is there in Bash? How similar are you guys?
I don't know. I mean, I think there are plenty of times where Liz and Carly will kind of will give me sort of creative license to do some pretty wild things. You know, oftentimes on a show, they don't really want you to play a character. They want you to just essentially play another version of yourself.
Right.
And it makes it difficult to know if you're really doing a whole lot of work or if you're just sort of speaking these words as you would say them. And what's fun about Bash is it's such a character. Like, I go to work and I have to grow my hair out really long, and it takes so long just to do that ridiculous bouffant thing I have. They like soak it in water and then just massage like a can of mousse into it.
The 80s were rough.
Blow dry it out. Then they take this little curling iron and individually curl all the hairs, and then they just empty a can of hairspray into it. So I'm just like I'm a literal match head walking around. And then I put on this ridiculous costumes that Beth Morgan finds for us. And so by the time I'm through hair and makeup and wardrobe, I already look so insane that at that point it's like the only way out is through, you know? And then it's really fun to just kind of feel like I've been transformed by all of this brilliant hair and makeup and costume department, that then I can just really like lean into these crazy mannerisms that the character has.
You're fully Miami Vice-ified by
Big time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is mid-80s to a T.
Yeah, I always say that I'm the most flammable thing on set.
Yes, it's a lot of hairspray.
It's a lot of hairspray.
Yeah, and everyone did that.
I mean, needless to say, everybody's got so much. I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
Kate's hair, they measure it. It gets 8 inches. Her bangs go 8 inches high.
Amazing.
They literally have a ruler that they do it with every morning. It is so insane.
Yeah, and once you set it at that length, then that's it. That's it.
You gotta,
that's it. She's
you
not
show up for that every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, everyone did that in the 80s. That's why we don't have an ozone layer anymore, you know?
Oh, is that the reason?
Well, one of my favorite things about him is just like the fact that he unironically, unabashedly, pun intended, calls himself Bash. Not Seb, not Sebi.
No, he's definitely no.
And it's just like immediately, like going back again, not to go back too far into the past, but like it helped. I felt like it's so subtle. Just the fact that he went by that name.
Yeah. When a character's named Bash, it's like it says something about the personality and the life they lead. Yeah,
it's a choice.
I would say
it's a life choice.
Or rather, it's more that when someone is named Sebastian,
yeah,
and they decide like actually it's Bash.
It's Bash.
They're making a very specific choice about the way they want to be perceived in the world. Yeah.
Yes. Well, like Glow is based on an actual wrestling league.
Yes.
Bash is based on an actual person. I think his name was David McLean.
Yeah, David McLean. Yeah, it's sort of an amalgamation of David McLean, who was the original announcer on the show, who was a diehard wrestling fanboy and very funny to watch. And then also this Vegas money guy who also produced and funded a lot of the shows. Okay. I think they sort of combined those two to create this character.
Is that guy still around? Have you heard?
Yeah,
from him?
I watched. Yeah, he's definitely a fan of the show.
That's great.
And when I was sort of first getting the job and trying to figure out exactly one of the big things that they really push us to discover on the show as quickly as possible was the difference between the personas in the ring and the sort of world and tone in the ring versus outside of the ring. And so for me, the in-the-ring persona, since I didn't have like a character the way that all the girls did, was sort of looking at David McLean and kind of the way he would turn himself on for these when he would be announcing the shows. And so for me, that was kind of a big inspiration for the character. And then everything outside of the ring and Bash's private life and the things that he's struggling with was, I think, sort of a separate discovery. I'm sort of divorced from anything that I'd seen prior, which I think is a big part of what this show is about. Like that documentary, which if you guys have not seen, you should, because it's spellbinding, is really informative, but only to a certain extent. And I think part of the fun of this show is going behind the curtain and seeing how these people live their day-to-day lives and what that looks like when you're doing a show this bananas 24/7.
Yeah. So tell everybody what Bash is up to in season 3. I don't know at this point how much. I mean, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's
so
out. I don't know how much I can
out there.
spoil either,
Yeah.
but essentially the gist of it is that one of the things that was a big arc for my character in the second season was this kind of realization that Bash's kind of sexual preferences are a little bit not as clear-cut as he may have thought, and there's this moment where one of his closest male friend dies of AIDS, actually, though it's never said, but it's pretty heavily implied. And it terrifies him. And so rather than confronting his feelings about it, he rushes off and marries Kate. And so in the third season, we're sort of seeing them try and navigate this impulsive marriage and sort of try and make the best of it, and sort of also like, what's your last name? You know, like sort of trying to like meet each other as husband and wife, which is an insane scenario to be in the first place. And then also, while simultaneously being put under these pressures of being away from home and being in the sort of bizarro world that Vegas is, and kind of being pushed to, I think every character in this season is really pushed to acknowledge sides of themselves that they've maybe been running away from or sort of turning a blind eye to. And I think that's what makes this season so powerful. It really is the stakes in this season feel remarkably high and so beautiful. I think the first season was about like this motley crew of people learning how to wrestle, and the second season was so much about creating a television show. It was about networks and executives and time slots and ratings. And I think this third season really is about the life and hardships of being a performer, of doing a show night after night, of being away from your friends and family, of navigating the getting older and what's happening to our bodies, and then also sort of asking the questions of like, is this really what I want to do with my life? Is this enough? And I don't know, those are all things that as an actor I certainly grapple with and think about, and I just think the way that it unfolds in this season is just really, really poignant. I think they really knocked it out of the ballpark.
Well, you referenced our old friend Florian, and
Florian.
We'd have to have a little bit of a moment of silence. I
know.
I love that guy.
That was a heavy plot point last year. And what I thought was so beautiful, and we talked about this, Liz and Carly and I, is about how that was going to come to the surface, how we were going to learn, and if we all kind of agreed that not only was it a little bit more, was it more accurate of the time period, but also I think a lot more just devastating that AIDS was still something that you couldn't even talk about. And so when he finds out the news, all he finds out is that Florian died of pneumonia technically, and that it probably would be difficult to find a funeral home that would take the remains. And just wrapping your head around that kind of reality and having to read between the lines of such in the face of such blinding tragedy just really was a beautifully devastating moment that I feel like they did a great job of portraying.
Yeah, for sure. On a lighter note, also new for you.
It's a comedy, right? The show that we made. Sorry, I don't mean to like bring these heavy.
But there's heavy moments.
Yes, there are.
You know, back to that point. Also new for you. There's more nudity for you this season.
Jesus, man, there is so.
This is where you guys are supposed to whistle.
I don't know if y'all know. Don't whistle. There is a profound amount of nudity and sex this season. It's a very sexy season. And I think, you know, everyone really rose to the challenge. I mean, literally there are ways that it is, and it's also nudity and sex on screen that you've not seen before. And what I mean by that is not like in graphic ways, but just one of, I think, the funniest and most endearing scenes in this season is there's this scene where Allie and Betty, Ruth and Debbie are backstage, and Ruth does this sort of showgirls topless dance because they're making fun of the showgirls in Vegas, and it's a scene that's got a lot of nudity, but it's not about sex, and it's not about, we're not talking about men, and We're not talking about nudity and how it relates to them. It's literally just like it feels just like a very private, playful moment between friends, between women. I don't know. There's just ways that sex is explored this season that I think is a very unique approach.
Yeah. I was talking about how much I love Bash, but I think the general consensus is that maybe he's a little more unsympathetic this season. Do you agree?
I think I do definitely become the heel more than a couple of times in this season, and I love it. I mean, I think a lot of times when you find out on any job that, especially on a TV job, when you never know where your character is going to go. When people sort of start to realize they're becoming the enemy, I think sometimes that can be really off-putting. But for me, I love it. It's a fun challenge, and it's fun to find ways for this seemingly likable character to have some insidious parts of himself. It just gives the character that much more dimension. And then when you realize the things that are driving his anger, which I think are all very empathetic things, I just think it gives the character that much more dimension. I love it, and I get to yell at Betty, which is a joy.
Yeah, and make Gina Davis cry a little bit too.
Yeah, I guess I do. Yeah, I guess that is a bummer. Anytime you make Gina Davis cry, it's a sad thing.
No, I think I might have turned against him a little bit once he stole Cupcake's girl. I mean, like poor Cupcake.
I know.
Cupcake is the tragic
he is
Flo.
maybe the great tragic figure of Flo. He could have married Rhonda, and he didn't.
Gina Davis, though, we got to talk about her. I mean, a living legend,
Yeah.
American icon. Tell us
Yes.
about working with her.
Well, I think everybody on the show tried to play it super cool when she came on set. Like everyone was just like, no big deal. It's just like, and I've got the worst poker face ever. So I just opened with like, what was it like working with Susan Sarandon, and Ridley Scott, in Thelma and Louise? And I hear you're an archer. When did that start? And you're a member of Mensa. Tell me more. Like I just had no shame about asking any thought that came into my head. And Gina's such a sweetheart. She just had a bottomless well of patience for all of my questions.
Well, you mentioned this a few minutes ago, but there has been a lot of speculation about his sexuality.
Sure.
And I feel like there's, among fans of the show, sort of a rooting interest for him to maybe come out, find his way. There's obviously he's fluid at this point, but what is your how far back did those sort of discussions go?
That was definitely something we addressed at the beginning of the show. I pretty quickly, one of my first questions was trying to understand how much does Bash have any malintentions with the girls on the show? Like, is there anything going on underneath the surface that I need to know about, like in terms of him putting it together? And pretty quickly from the discussions we had, we sort of talked about this idea that maybe Bash is gay, but if he is, he doesn't even know it. And that was really it was something we talked about in the first season and like put away. And it wasn't until season 2 that we started to even explore it even peripherally. And then I think in the third season it really comes to a head.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that it would be a disservice to have Bash suddenly have a homoerotic experience and then wake up the next day and be like, aha, I'm gay, who knew, yay, and just and have it be that simple. I think it's a lot more complicated. I think there's, he's grown up in this rich conservative family and rich conservatism in the 80s amidst the AIDS crisis. I think it's very difficult to, it's difficult in 2019, let alone then, this idea of squaring an idea that you had of your life as a heterosexual man with a wife and a child and a white picket fence, and how that is, how do you now fit in these new life choices and these parts of yourself that you are finding that are waking up inside of you? How do you bridge those two? And I think that's a very complicated question that there are no simple answers for, and I think that's part of his journey throughout this show.
Yeah. Well, we spent a few minutes talking about Mark Maron. We gotta talk. We're gonna take some audience questions in a second, but we gotta talk about all these incredible women that you work with on this show. I mean, not to make you play favorites, but who's your favorite?
I'll tell you my favorites. No, I really, please don't make me play favorites, because I'll die. But no, I mean, I love. I think Allie as the lead of a show. Generally, whoever is the lead of the show sets the tone that the whole set will have. And I've been on jobs where the lead can be a real pain in the ass, or a curmudgeon, or a downer, and that just trickles through everybody.
Tell us more.
Yeah. Boy, do I have stories. No. But Allie, I think, she shows up and she's just this like ray of sunshine, and she really loves the show so much and cares about it so much and is so prepared that I think she sets a great example for the rest of us to follow. And so as a result of that, it kind of makes everybody else feel like they have to be equally enthusiastic and committed and prepared. And so that creates a great environment. I think Betty is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. I've known Jackie for years, so it was so fun to work with her. Kia is the coolest person you will ever meet. Her story is so wild. Kia, if you guys don't know, is an actual wrestler.
Right.
Her character wrestling persona was named Awesome Kong, and she's just a badass. I don't know. I love all these women. Kate and I really got close over this last season. We had to do some pretty wild stuff, and it required a great deal of trust and real teamwork, and I can't say enough nice things about these people.
We're gonna do a quick speed round, okay?
Okay.
Who would you be most afraid of to wrestle? Who would just kick your ass all over the place?
Oh, well, all of them, but definitely Kia. Kia would kill me.
Definitely the pro wrestler.
Yeah, the pro wrestler
that
is the one you don't want to wrestle.
Yes. Who makes you laugh the most on set?
Betty. Yeah, Betty, the way that she's able to, her brain works so quickly that the way she's able to come up with the most like sharp, brilliant, witty observation is like, will like take your breath away.
Who's got the best hair?
Oh, good question.
Can't say Bash.
I mean, it is Bash. I definitely have the. I'm trying to think who's got. I mean, Jackie's hair is pretty wild. That's one that every time we show up on set, they'll just like it's like a challenge in the hair and makeup trailer to see how much bigger they can get the hair. Or Allie, when she's doing her persona, she's doing Zoya the Destroyer, and she's got that crazy mohawk, which is all of our actual hair, which is also so batshit crazy. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. We're gonna take some audience Q&A now. Hello.
Hi. So, as seen on your social media, you love photography and you're amazing at it.
Thank you.
Backstage and like behind the scenes, did you take a lot of pictures? And if so, what was your favorite that you've taken?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I usually bring my cameras to set and kind of gauge pretty early on if people are comfortable with me taking photographs, and I try and capture as many candid moments as I possibly can. And I really took a lot of photographs during season 1 and 2, not so much this third season, just because the sets were so dark and dismal, and it was sort of a sad like environment to be around, and the lighting was always so low. But like that gym space was so gorgeous in the first 2 seasons, so it was the light was always so beautiful and big. And I think my favorite photographs are the ones I took at the beginning of the second season when it was our first day back, and everyone was just, you could feel this kind of electric energy going around, and everyone was just like could not stop hugging each other and screaming and getting excited, and it was just like a very easy environment to take photographs in. And I definitely took I think my favorite photographs that I've taken on set were from this one day. Yeah, of course.
That is an awesome way to document your experience on the show.
Too,
and just to store, physically store memories or digitally store memories. You know who does that and has done it for like 30 years is Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
You've seen his photography.
I
would recommend it. He's done it throughout his entire 40-year film career.
Yeah, and like you work with some real icons, and it's I mean, for me, I mean, there are definitely times I'll bring stuff on set, and there are actors who do not want. Or really, oftentimes, it's production doesn't want anybody taking photographs because they don't know how it's going to be used and they don't have ownership over it.
Right.
And I shoot everything on film, so it's not like I can show them what the image looks like.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of scares people.
And they're the ones that are going to get in trouble. So.
Yeah, but who cares about them? Let them get in trouble. Whatever. The photos are going to be great.
Yeah, the
but no, it is nice to bring it with me all the time. It's a fun way to document a time in my life, and usually I give out prints as gifts at the end of the season.
Awesome.
Every year I've given the ladies a calendar with images that we've photographed over the year, and it's just
nice.
It's a fun way to do.
So they each get a month.
I don't know if they each get a month. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
more or
that makes
less.
sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. We got one more question from the audience. Hi.
Hey,
what's up, dude?
How's it going?
Good.
Big fan of your work, specifically on Veronica Mars.
Oh, sure.
I was wondering what your feelings are on the new season, and is there hope for a Piznarky return?
Oh man, good question. Yeah, so I have no opinion of the new season other than that I'm an enormous fan of Kristen Bell and Ryan Hansen and Jason Doring and all those guys. That was one of those jobs where it was like it felt criminal that we were going that was work. I mean, it was like too good to be true. And with regards to Piz ever coming back, I don't know. I talked to Rob about it, and it sort of felt like if the main objective of my character from the outset was to break up this romance between Logan and Veronica, then I feel like mission accomplished. Like I ran that course as far as I could run it. She chose him. It's like I don't know what purpose he serves at this point. That said, any excuse, if they called me up to come do, to be a corpse on the show, I would do it. Just because it's fun to work with those guys.
Another amazing character name, by the way.
Yeah,
you were locking them down.
Bash, Piz, like they just. If you ever meet any of these people in real life, ask them how they do it.
Yes.
Because I don't have an answer.
Well, in the meantime, you guys can check out Chris on season 3 of Glow on Netflix. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Chris, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great to talk to you, man.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.